This video was sponsored by FlexiSpot. Right, so I think this is episode 5 in the desk setup build series. It's taking quite a lot longer than I expected, to be honest. I'm starting to understand why other YouTubers also do this in like a series, because you know, you add new tech to the desk setup and then other stuff starts breaking because it starts interfering with each other. So I'm actually doing a showcase in this video because it's going to take a while to get to the next video, or the final form. So I started off by filling up some gaps. These were initially there because the monitor arms were in that location, but we moved them to the rear of the setup because they were interfering with the placement of the speakers. So I measured it up and 3D printed some little caps for it. Still using that Bamboo Lab A1, pretty awesome printer. They sponsored that for the previous video, so that was really nice. And the time lapses that come out of this thing are really amazing. Once I had those caps on there, the whole setup looked a lot more complete, to be honest, even though there's still like a massive gap over there. So you might notice actually that I have the iPad Pro on the low profile microphone arm. And initially, you know, I was going to have 2 microphones on the setup, so 2 low profile arms, which is still the plan. But one low profile arm will hold a dynamic microphone like the Rode Pod mic, and this one will keep holding the iPad because I model quite a lot of stuff on here, and it's like right here. And it in not too ergonomic way, so when it's on the desk, you kind of crouched over like that, which isn't great. But with this, you can actually like adjust it a little bit so that it's hanging from above you, and you can just lay down in your chair and actually model out some stuff. You can see it in the EDC multi-tool video where I'm using a different kind of microphone arm to do that. But then the audio solution is moving to the top because for some reason when you boom a microphone, the audio quality sounds a lot better. Like a pretty substantial audio difference. Like I'm talking in the exact same tone, the monotone tone that I used in years. And yeah, you'll probably hear a lot more echo, a lot more room noise and that kind of stuff. So this is an audio test with the microphone boomed right above me. You can see it right in frame over here. And you'll notice that the audio quality sounds a lot better, a lot deeper. It's also because it's quite a lot closer to my mouth, right? And when it's underslowing, it needs to be quite a lot further away. Now initially that last panel, the last gap in the setup was meant to be holding some kind of techie component. I kind of forgot what I was going to do with that panel, to be honest. But I've been noticing that my desktop is getting quite cluttered with like tape measures and lenses and all kinds of little knickknacks like knives and stuff to open boxes. So I want to like change up the plans, make a little storage box on the right side now, and hopefully that'll solve that issue. I basically took the old design of the panel we built in the previous video and cleaned it all up, made it into kind of a bucket. 3D printed that on the A1 again. I didn't do too good of a job at designing this. I just use these little bolts to thread in like a plate at the bottom. But yeah, once we've got that in there, it looks okay. And I'm actually quite happy with this little storage box. I've been using it for the past week. It's been doing pretty good. Now this video is actually sponsored by FlexiSpot and their E7 desk. I actually integrated the E7 legs into this desktop in the very first video. And I bought them myself, so I've already been like using FlexiSpot products for quite a long time. I've been really happy with them. The E7 legs as well, they come with like a 15-year warranty. And I was really curious as to like how these things are constructed. It seems so they're very confident that these things will last you 15 years. I was really intrigued by this because I have a lot of FlexiSpot legs and I kind of wanted to take them apart. So it's a pretty easy process. You just unscrew the 4 bolts which holds the protective cover in place. And underneath that is the electric motor. And that electric motor is held in place with 2 bolts, which if we unscrew those, you can just pull it clean off. Which is really cool to see because that's very easily like user replaceable. And underneath that is kind of a column section thing which it turns. So if you unscrew the next 2 bolts and kind of turn it to open it up, you'll see that there's a massive thread and that goes into like a column section within the legs. So when it turns that thread, it just, ups the height. So it's a pretty logical situation. I wasn't expecting too much else of it, but it's really nice to see how durable these things are constructed and how easy they are to take apart and like fix yourself as well. So the casing around that whole situation is also really thick automotive grade steel. And you can see how thick it is. It's almost like 3mm, I believe. That's very different from the other sit stand legs that I've bought over the past years, which are really thin and flimsy. In my case, I don't actually use it to stand a whole lot. Like I do often like work at my desk setup when I'm standing. But in my case, I also have the camera mounted on the setup, right? And so I have a preset height set up for the camera's height because in this talking head configuration, it's a lot lower than it would be when I'm sitting at the desk setup. You can do this by adjusting the height to your preferred like setting, and then hitting the M button, and then selecting one of the presets on the right side. Which kind of brings us into the control interface as well, because I have it custom integrated here. But I actually really prefer the FlexiSpot E7 control panel because it's a touch sensitive pad. It doesn't actually have physical buttons. And I like this because, you know, if you work in a dusty workshop, for example, it's very easy to clean. There's a Black Friday sale going on right now with some really incredible deals on the FlexiSpot website. And I don't say that because they want me to say that, but I actually keep an eye on the FlexiSpot website quite often. And I always get like the FlexiSpot legs when there's like a deal going on. So in terms of its lifting capacity, the E7 holds up to 330 lbs, and the E7 Pro holds a little bit more at 440 lbs, which is 200 kilograms. That's quite a lot of weight. You can actually have like a full setup like the one I have here, and then sit on top of it and then still adjust the height to its highest position. So special thanks to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video, and definitely check out flexispot.com to get some Black Friday deals and save yourself some money on a pair of sit-stand legs, or maybe a chair or something like that, like an ergonomic accessory. Go nuts. So the next thing I really wanted to do is add some kind of laptop sleeve at the back of the setup. So I took the laptop stand to the scanning station, and the only reason I really scanned it is just to get the distance between the gaps, which we can do with a caliper as well, but way overkill for this scenario, but it's kind of fun. So I came up with a pretty rudimentary design for that, but I mainly wanted to figure out resin printing because Elegoo sent over like a resin printer, which this isn't the integration for it, but I was trying to figure stuff out and then forgot that this video would be released sooner than the original integration. But anyway, I didn't pay for the machine, just keep that in mind. Resin printing is really a lot more involved than I'm used to. So a normal FDM printer, you just take it off the bed and it's all finished. This stuff is a lot more toxic as well, so you have to wear gloves while you're doing this, and I'm wearing eye protection as well, and like a mask, because I think it like releases harmful VOCs into the air. So a friend actually came past a little while ago, and he was like really intrigued by this process because it really looks like you're developing film. Like in the old days when you take a picture on film, you have to develop it in a dark room. So I'm really thinking of designing a print room with like the red lighting and that kind of stuff to make it feel like a development room or something. I feel that would be really awesome. But yeah, once you get it off the build plate, you have to put it in a vat of alcohol, I believe, IPO or something like that. This is also, these products I bought myself, so it kind of spins around. But at this point it isn't actually cured yet, so you have to cure it in UV light. So you can actually put it in not direct sunlight, but in sunlight, and then it will cure itself. Or you can buy one of these machines which has UV lights in it, and it turns it around and that kind of stuff. If you have a nice process for how to do this, then definitely let me know in the comments, because I haven't really had time to research it yet. And I am busy with a really awesome project where I'm designing a new EDC multi-tool, and I'm using this printer to do that. So if you enjoyed the video so far, definitely consider subscribing. If you don't subscribe, then you might never see another one of my videos because it doesn't end up in your suggested feed, and you might miss it. We do have to adjust the laptop stand a little bit so the screws don't stick out too much. And I use some of these thread mount things which you press into the 3D print with a soldering iron. I'm not sure if this is the best thing to do on a resin print. It might actually be toxic, but in the end it doesn't look that great. Like the design is quite rudimentary, to be honest with you. I don't know why I didn't put more time into that. But I think someday, like later down the line, I really want to make some kind of laptop stand where you slide in the laptop and it automatically falls onto some USB ports, and then it automatically connects in that way. So that's where we are right now. I did get a comment in the comment section asking me why I don't have any wireless peripherals on this thing, and this is indeed like a temporary set because the keyboard has to go back into the concept desk. That's a project we did a little while ago. But I'm kind of at a loss because the product that I really want doesn't really exist yet, so I'd really like an analog mechanical keyboard like the Wooting 60HE, but then in that split configuration and wireless. And so why would you want that? Like, it's very useful for gaming, so when you're playing an FPS shooter, the only real side of the keyboard you use is that side, right? And you can just like throw the other side somewhere else and you have a lot of room for your mouse. But the rest of the setup has been doing quite nicely. Like the teleprompter is nicely integrated. I still need to 3D print that component in black though because it doesn't look that great in gold. The KVM switch that we installed in the previous video also works perfectly. It's really nice to have that. And I've finally been able to utilize the other computers on the setup now, instead of those just being like offline all of the time. So The audio situation is also really nice in terms of recording stuff. You know, I just pull out the microphone up here and I start recording a video because it's linked to the switch on the top, on the front panel. So you just switch it on, camera's on, OBS, you start up OBS and you're ready to go. In terms of audio checks, that's also really useful because you can just do a quick 10-second recording, check the audio, see if there's any hiss. Up until now there hasn't been. The DaVinci Resolve Super Speed Editor, which is a panel that we custom built in one of my prior videos, has been working out quite nicely. It's really stable, it's really reliable, but I have run into some issues where that jog wheel is really quite sensitive. So currently it's at an angle and sometimes it starts moving by itself and it starts selecting all kinds of stuff, which really gets on my nerves. So we need to fix that somehow, give it a little bit more resistance. So the on-off switch power panel that we integrated in the previous video works perfectly, but it doesn't work when you feed it through the KVM. And like the normal USB ports work when you feed it through the KVM, but the USB-C ports don't work when you feed it through the KVM. So I need to get another USB hub, which is just USB-A ports that we can connect to the KVM. That way we can turn on and off the mouse and keyboard and, you know, still have that quick troubleshooting mechanism in place. In terms of future plans, we still have some gaps in the side of this thing, which I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do with those yet. I would like to turn one of them into some kind of SSD caddy, where we can just slide in an SSD, slide in the CF Express Type B card. Currently those are under the setup and that's kind of a hassle. We also need to add a key light to this thing so that when we switch the camera on, the key light immediately goes on as well. And then it's very clear when that whole system is activated, because currently I keep forgetting to turn off the camera. This is something I'm not really looking forward to doing because the key light, I've got it in my head that I want it to be like a flexible LED panel because those are very like low profile. So I saw this flexible LED panel from Amaran, the 22C, and I am hoping that there's some kind of Black Friday deal on that. It would fit the setup like perfectly, but if we can't do that, then a CRB will have to do. The base up until now has been working out quite nicely as well. I did notice that it gets quite dirty, and I knew that before I actually started painting it, but I painted it black and I knew that all the dust would kind of collect on it and make it look really ugly, especially because I just, you know, work with my shoes on there and it has like the Elgato foot pedal just stationed there. So maybe we should give that like an extra coating sometime in the future so it's like easier to clean. The Stream Deck pedal on there as well is really amazing. I haven't really found a great routing situation for the cable of that thing yet though. But it seems like we took apart the FlexiSpot legs in this video. I saw like a possibility to modify those FlexiSpot legs so that would be, you could route the cables through the center column. And that's quite dangerous because it could snag inside of it, right, and then ruin something. But I feel like there's enough room there to where that wouldn't happen. And maybe we will do that in a future video. Alright, that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some inspiration for your own setup build or some kind of other build, and I hope you'll stick around for the next video.